Hi, this is David Lee for the James Bond Dossier, and a couple of weeks ago I put a call out on social media and by email for people to leave an audio question or a comment about Spectre, and with the idea of putting together a podcast. And basically the idea is that to get you all more involved with the podcast and actually participate in it. And it's a bit of an experiment. I don't know how it's going to go. I got a number of people leaving comments and questions, which I'm now going to answer. I had a number that were that the audio quality was just too bad, and I can't understand the comments or the questions. So unfortunately, I've deleted those. But we've still got a few to get through, and I would love to hear what you think about this idea and any particular comments you have about what I say or what anybody else says in this podcast. So that's the idea behind it. So I guess we had better get in and start. And a quick reminder that there may be spoilers in what follows, so switch off if that worries you.
Hello sir, my name's Owen Ling, I'm a James Bond avid fan. My question is, do you think Christoph Waltz will return in subsequent films as Ernst Stavro Blofeld, or do you think he'll just be a one-off? Do you think the character itself will return? Thank you for listening.
Okay, well, great to hear from you. You've written some great articles for the website as well. Two questions there. One is whether Christoph Waltz will come back, and the other is whether the character of Blofeld will come back. And I'll answer the second one first, I think. It's rather easier. I definitely do think that Blofeld will return at some point, whether it's the next film or whether it's some way down the line. I don't know. But, you know, Eon has got the rights to Blofeld again. He is the iconic villain, and I just can't see that they'd waste him. You know, I didn't like everything they did with Blofeld in Spectre. You know, having him as James Bond's foster brother was absurd, really. You know, just because he felt that Bond displaced him in his own family and pushed him out of the nest, as he said in the film. You know, that doesn't give him the motivation to set up Spectre and you know, try and control the world's information and so on. It's just absurd. That part of the story I didn't like at all, and I don't at all like this current thing of in Hollywood of trying to tie up all the loose ends. I mean, lives are full of loose ends. They don't get tied up in real life, and it's you know, it may have seemed smart at one stage for you know, all these strands to be connected together, but to me, I think it's just lazy. It's a lack of originality in script writing, and yeah, not very good. So I just want to ignore that point. Ignore that side of the plot and the story, and you know, they were to be honest. I think they reintroduced Blofeld too early. They could have had Spectre with Blofeld in the background and introduced Blofeld in a later film, much like in the Connery films that Blofeld didn't show up until You Only Live Twice, did he? So yeah, he was always there in the background stroking his cat, and they could have done exactly the same thing. I mean, Michael G. Wilson could have played Blofeld and not been seen on screen, or Barbara Broccoli even, plenty to do there. Okay, so will Christoph Waltz play him? I don't know. I think that's much more difficult to answer. I think to a large extent it may depend on whether Daniel Craig comes back as Bond as well. If he comes back as Bond, then maybe they'll get Christoph Waltz back on. It's easy to bring him back into the story somehow. But equally, he can have plastic surgery. He can come back bald. He can come back with or without the scar. In the books, his appearance changed radically due to plastic surgery and so on. So yeah. Bond changes every now and then. Blofeld can change Blofeld can change as well, as he did originally anyway. So no problem there. Okay. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, and thanks for getting in touch. The next question coming up is from John Jeffrey. Here we go.
Can't agree that Spectre is better than Skyfall. I thought it was very, very much a mishmash, kind of a cut and shut of lots and lots of different Bond films. Good film, but no, in my opinion, not better than Skyfall.
Okay, that's fine. I've got no problems if you disagree with me. I fall into a minority with Skyfall. I really disliked it, and when I was at the Spectre premiere, I saw somebody who I hadn't seen since the Skyfall premiere, and I was just sitting a couple of seats away from him then, and he said that he couldn't believe how disappointed I was at the end of Skyfall. So and if you look at all my comments on the film, I've always rated it very, very low. The Spectre, a mishmash. Yeah, I do agree with that, but I think Skyfall was a mishmash too. There's no point in me attacking Skyfall. I don't think. I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. We'll have to leave it at that. Thanks for your comment. I have no problem with people disagreeing with my own opinions. Okay, let's line up the next one.
Hey David, it's Erica Klein. I'm one of your fans and also one of your subscribers. I saw Spectre recently in IMAX and was just wondering what you thought of the way they crafted the villain, as well as articulated and dramatized the threat, which to me seemed pretty vague, but sort of old news given the post-Snowden era. But I wondered if you could weigh in on the villain and whether he was well matched to James Bond and whether the threat was well articulated in this particular production. Thanks.
Hi, Erica. Thanks for getting in touch. I think that's a good question. And I wrote a review a couple of weeks ago about the film. And one of my issues with it is simply that the threat doesn't feel it doesn't feel particularly threatening, I suppose. And you're right. You're completely right. It's very, very vague. This thing. Okay, surveillance and big data and intelligence services being able to snoop on us is a big thing at the moment, and has been for some time. And that's one of the themes of Skyfall as well. But if you go back to the early Bonds, and in particular if I think about Thunderball, And the reason I go back to Thunderball is because in the books it was the first to introduce Blofeld, and if you remember Thunderball, some people love it, some people have got problems with it. I love it, but it has a great threat. Spectre steals 2 atomic bombs, and they threaten to nuke a couple of cities in the West, and that is a very, very real threat. I mean, if you think about if that happened in real life, it would be terrifying. And the thing about information, of course it is important, and there are some there are massive questions about how information is used, and whether even if intelligence agencies have access to all this information, do they have the means to sift through it and find out the real threats as well? Because that's one of the things that came out of Snowden too. And in the end, that was one of the things that was really lacking in Spectre, is a credible threat. It is very, very vague. Going to the villain, I read a few days ago, in fact, that the original villain was going to be Denby, and I think you can actually see that Blofeld was actually tacked on a bit. And as I said before, I thought the whole background to him being Bond's foster brother was ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. It wasn't needed for the story to work. So why do it? And as I said, they could have introduced Spectre now, and Blofeld as a real character later on, just have him in the background. So yeah, for me, Blofeld didn't work, and I wasn't crazy on Christoph Waltz's portrayal of him either, to be honest. I just found him a bit bit annoying, not really a criminal mastermind who is bent on world domination. Second rate.
Hey, so about Spectre, I enjoyed the first part of it very much. In fact, at one point I was thinking, this isn't good. How can they ever make a better Bond film? But then the plot started becoming slightly unbelievable. Because, first Bond walked straight into the wolf's lair twice without a second thought. And that's not a very secret agent thing to do, I think. And then there's that helicopter being shot down with a pistol, which sort of spoiled the whole finale for me. Quite an unbelievable scene. And also I found that the film's climax, much as in Skyfall, was not a climax at all, and instead it just drags itself on and on after we already know what is going to happen. So, for the second time in 4 years, I find myself enjoying at most only the first half of a Bond film, and being disappointed by the final outcome. But overall it was quite enjoyable, and I would definitely recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it yet not to miss it on cinemas. And yes, I think that's it.
Okay, and that was by Alberto. So thanks for your contribution, Alberto. I didn't understand a bit of that. The audio broke up about why it wasn't a very secret agent thing to do. So I can't answer that part for you. The finale, yeah, I completely agree. I was actually quite I was happy with the Skyfall finale. For me, that worked. It was one of the bits that I did like. Even though I've been told it's like Home Alone, but I've never seen Home Alone. With 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 Spectre, when they escape from Blofeld, or Blofeld's lair, that almost seems like it should have been the finale, even though it would have been a bit of an anticlimactic one. It did need something more, but then it's kind of very multi-layered. The big finale doesn't quite come. There are several smaller ones, and the running around the damaged MI6 headquarters before it is demolished. Didn't really do it for me. Okay, you had the ticking bomb, so Bond was working against the clock, but somehow it just didn't work. And then even that's not the finale, because there's another finale, which is the helicopter bit, and he shot the helicopter down with a handgun. I think you're not the only person to have complained about that issue, and to me it doesn't really bother me. Okay, he maybe just got lucky with that, but I don't know. The whole thing on the bridge with the crashed helicopter was a bit silly. There needed to be a clearer resolution, and then even that wasn't the end, because then there was the whole bit about it seemed like Bond had quit the service, and then even that wasn't enough. Then he had to go back to Q, and then he drove off with Madeline, and it's almost as if they didn't really know how to finish the last 5 minutes of the film, I think. A bit of a mess. I could have done with something a bit more satisfying there. Okay. Sorry, I can't. I just can't make out the first point of your or your first question. But I hope that at least answers something of what you wanted to say. Okay. Right, the next one coming up is going to be from Michael. Okay, here we go.
Hello. As a perennial Bond fan, I saw the latest Spectre film on Saturday in Luxembourg, and my son and I, we loved it. I personally thought it's the best Bond movie ever. As Ralph Fiennes said in London at the premiere, it's got great forward momentum. It really moves at a great pace, and of course the women are to die for. So wonderful film, great stuff. I hope we're going to see at least one more film with Daniel Craig, because I think he plays the part perfectly. So very good all round, very pleased. Thank you.
Okay, right. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, the forward momentum. I think I can't agree that it's the best Bond film. I don't think it matches up to Casino Royale, for example, and it doesn't match up to the early Connerys for me. But yeah, as I was saying earlier to John, I think it was. Everybody's got a different opinion, and everybody's right. So if you think it's the best Bond film ever, that's fine. The forward momentum, I definitely agree with you there. I could have done with it slowing down a bit in places, though, and when it did slow down, I think they should have slowed it down even more, and perhaps cut out an action sequence. It's all a bit relentless, and even though you get the action and you get the action driving the whole story, the thing that is really lacking for me is a real sense of dramatic tension. It comes from the non-stop action rather than any real drama, and so that for me could have been done better. But then the bit in the hotel room in Tangier, I really like that when it's slowed down a bit. I would have liked that to have been a bit more developed. And it's quite funny with the bit with the mouse. It's an unexpected moment in a Bond film, which I really appreciated. So all that's good. What else did you? Was there anything else that I haven't responded to? I think that was it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yes. And you said that you hoped Daniel Craig came back for one more. Yep. I agree. I think he has made a really good Bond film, even though I haven't loved all the films he's been in. And if you can understand the difference there, it would be really good to have him back for one more, at least one more. Although I don't know, if they made if they made 2 more films on a 2-year cycle, then I think he could get away with it. After that, he may be pushing it. Although, to me, he looks better in Spectre than he did in Skyfall. I think he was looking a bit older in Skyfall for some reason. No idea what that's all about. Okay, well, anyway, thanks for your comments, and we will have to wait and see whether Daniel Craig comes back or we have a new Bond for the next film. Fingers crossed it's Daniel Craig. Okay, right, so on to the next one, and the next one is Alexander. Okay, here we go.
My only problem with the new James Bond film is the underdeveloped character of Oberhauser, who doesn't appear in the original books, as far as I can recall. He is actually, in fact, Stavro Belfast, and I think that the other characterizations of the character in the likes of On Her Majesty's Secret Service and You Won't Get Twice is better. That's my only point of note. My name is Carl Hubbard. Thank you.
Okay, Carl. So you're saying that Blofeld was a better developed character in the on the previous occasions that he's appeared, and I don't think I disagree with that. To a certain extent, there was too much in Spectre, and one of the results of that is that they didn't really go in. They didn't really delve into Blofeld properly. There's the I'm going to repeat myself now. There's this thing about him being Bond's foster brother, which, as I said before, didn't work at all for me. And he wasn't really villainous enough. You can't feel that he is capable of doing something like, as I said before, threatening the West with a couple of atomic bombs, for example. His big thing is having access to information, and that doesn't particularly feel very, very threatening. And I agree there. He wasn't villainous enough. He wasn't developed enough as a character, and the whole backstory doesn't really make sense and was uncalled for. As far as Oberhauser goes, his father, Hans Oberhauser, did appear in the short story Octopussy. He was murdered by Major Dexter Smythe in Austria, and Bond goes out to Jamaica to confront Smythe when Oberhauser's body appears from a glacier 20 years later. So that's where they've got that from. The character of is he Franz Oberhauser? I can't remember now. Whatever Christoph Waltz's supposed Oberhauser name was, he didn't actually appear in any of the Bond books. You're correct there. Yeah. And actually, on that, oh my God, why on earth did they keep going on about Waltz not playing Blofeld? Everybody knew that he was going to be. The only thing is, when I went into the premiere, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not going to be as obvious as that, and somebody else is going to be Blofeld, which would have been a much better twist. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They called the film Spectre. Of course, Blofeld was going to show up at some stage, but as I said, they would have done better off having him in the shadows, stroking his cat. Okay. Let's see. We have got one final message, and this one is from Gary. So take it away, Gary.
Hi, David. This is Gary. I saw Spectre this morning, and I'm still wrapping my head around the whole experience. So I can't really give an opinion until I've seen it at least a second time. My overall feeling about the movie is mixed. One thing that bothered me about it was the cinematography. Although gorgeous, it tended to be either shot at night or on dark, overcast days, which gave the movie a pretty grim feeling. Of course, the action sequences are technically perfect. They've got that down. But the whole movie at 2 hours and 30 minutes was a bit long for my taste. A few quick questions, which involve spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. Early on in the film, Bond shares a video recording of M with Moneypenny, in which she tells Bond, find this person, and kill them. Who was that person she was talking about? I totally missed that. Later on in the film, well, actually at the end, Bond has an opportunity to kill Blofeld, and he withholds doing that. Why do you think that is, David? Was he trying to retain some of his own humanity, or what? I just don't know. Anyway, I'd like to hear your opinion on it. There are a lot of other questions, but I'm out of time. Talk to you later.
Okay, Gary. First of all, you comment on the cinematography. I actually don't mind that a lot of it's shot at night. That adds to the atmosphere of a Bond film to me. But some of the London scenes were a bit rainy. I seem to remember. Maybe that's what you're talking about, but London gets like that sometimes. At the beginning, when Bond shows Moneypenny the video of the old M, the person that he was supposed to assassinate was Marco Sciarra. So basically, he was justifying to Moneypenny why he had been in Mexico, and for some reason, the old M had left him this video telling him to go after Marco Sciarra, the guy he had the fight on the helicopter with, and he was told to make sure he attended the funeral as well, which is why he then went off to Italy. Okay, is there anything else I've missed there? It doesn't really make much sense if you think about it. Why didn't she tell him to go after Sciarra when she was still alive? I haven't figured that one out. And okay, at the end, Bond saves Blofeld. Well, if you want to be slightly cynical, I would say it was simply so they kept Blofeld alive, so they can bring him back in another film. I don't know. I guess he was showing in some way that even though Blofeld felt like he had been kicked out of the nest. Bond hadn't intended to do that at all, and so maybe in some way it was an apology, or I don't know. But yeah, the real answer is so that Blofeld can come back. Okay, so that is it. That's about half an hour of questions and answer. I would love to hear what you think about this. Let me know. You can email me m@thejamesbonddossier.com or go to the website, it's thejamesbonddossier.com, and go to the contact page and you can contact me from there. Okay, so thanks very much for listening. This is David Lee from thejamesbonddossier.com. I hope to speak to you soon.